Now in this week's video, I'll be covering with you how to change the oil in a Rotax 1330cc engine. Now even though I'm doing it in my Spyder F3, this does apply to the Spyder RTs and also the newer 2022 models. The only difference in the RT models is that you'll have to remove the side panels a little differently than you do in this Spyder F3. Other than that, all the drain plugs, filters, and everything will be in the same locations, so you can use this video as a reference. And at the end of this video, I'll cover with you any tips and tricks that I have for you on changing your oil, and also list the accessories and products and where to get them as well. So I hope you enjoy this week's video, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that bell for future notifications. Now before you clean anything, you want to look and make sure that there's no chunks of metal.
You're not going to clean this filter, but it's good to check it first. Make sure there's no shavings or chunks. You're looking for big chunks. Sometimes there'll be little tiny slivers of metal shavings. That's fine if they're real small, but you do want to make sure that you don't see any metal chunks on this especially. This is what goes in your filter. And then on this as well, you'll see just a few slivers here on the end. I don't know if you can see those or not because they are awful small. Let's see if I can put them in the glove. They're just right here on the tip. Let's see if you can see those shine just a little bit there. Those are okay, they're not chunks, so it's okay to use those. So I'm going to clean all of this up and then show you how to put everything back together. Looks good on that as well. Alright, now before you put everything back together, I put a little bit of new oil in the cap and just rub it around this O-ring. Give it a good little greasing. Do the same for the two small ones. And whenever you're removing the cap, make sure that you do not put any of the plastic from the cap in there. You don't want that going into your engine. And for the O-rings on this one, I like to use Yamaha lube. It's a lubricant brake caliper grease. You're going to use that for these O-rings, so just squeeze a little bit out. Comes out in a nice gel, and we're just going to quickly coat these, not a whole lot, just kind of rub it around your finger. Okay, so we want to make sure that we clean everything around this little area. Unfortunately, the oil catches a lot on this plastic and creates a big problem for you and a big smell, so we're going to try and clean it up the best we can. We have made sure everything's clean, no metal shavings or anything around this area. We're going to put this back in. Now what I like to do first is I like to act like I'm unscrewing it, let it find its grooves, and then screw it back in. That way I don't cross thread it. It goes in kind of smooth. Alright, so it's starting to get snug there. And this one is 21 foot-pound of torque, so we're going to get this settled in. Okay, right there is 21 foot-pound. Now with this side, we're going to do just like the other. This is for your magnetic drain plug. We're going to clean this off. Make sure we don't have any dirt, residue, metal shavings, or anything. Now, just like the other one, I like to start by kind of unscrewing it, let it sit into its place. When I feel that it grabs, I'm going to start screwing it in. There we go. Now, the magnetic drain plug, which is this one, it is only 15 foot-pound of torque. So I got everything set up here. And right there we go, 15 foot-pound. So that's all it takes. Now the oil filter, it doesn't really matter which side you put up, they're both the same. But for this, I'm going to put, the original came in with the Rotax facing up, so I'm going to do the same for this one. That way it also has the numbers there. Just in case I ever need it, I don't have to go through the whole process of removing it. So I'm going to put that in first. We've already cleaned the spot, so I don't have to worry about it. And when you put this one in, you have to wiggle it into place because those little rubber gaskets will sit down in there. Alright, so that's seated into place now. We're just going to put the cap back on it. This is kind of tricky because there's not a whole lot of space here, and you don't want to rub it around anything if you can help it. Try and keep it as clean as possible. Get one down in there. Alright. So for the first part, I'm just going to hand tighten it. Now again, with all of these, you do not want to over tighten. Make sure that you use a torque wrench. Now for the oil filter, it is 18 foot-pound. So we're going to get in here where I can. Again, not a whole lot of room. Alright, and there's 18 foot-pound. Doesn't take much at all. And after we put this brake fluid reservoir in, we're going to put that little plastic piece that usually falls out whenever you remove it. It's this little pipe here back in behind the hinge. It's hard to do this on video to show you the actual spot, but whenever you get to it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Now the last step we're going to do is take the dipstick out, clean it, and then we're going to start adding oil. Now a little tip for you is when you're going to put these back on, start with a small one. So whenever I installed these, I put this ring on first, then I started with the small O-ring and then put the bigger one on afterwards. That way it just kind of slides down over top of it. Now when you're removing the O-rings, there's a little trick. You can take your fingers and kind of push and squeeze and see how that pops out, and then you can bend it up with your thumb to remove it. There's also a little tool you can get, like a pick, that you can pick up and move off.